Hey everyone, it's Naysan here, and I'm here with my dear friend, actor Rainn Wilson. So good to see you, Rainn, after so long. Appreciate you and all that you've been doing. You've been very busy with what I like to call the Soul Boom universe. You have an amazing book that you put out called Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution. And then after the book, you started a podcast called Soul Boom, which has been amazing. You've interviewed amazing guests talking about deep and profound concepts. And now you've got the Soul Boom workbook, which has been really exciting that you did with our friend Shabnam. So tell us about the Soul Boom workbook and what it is.
Yeah, so when I wrote Soul Boom, kind of the mothership book, I had no idea how it would be received. And, what is this, former sitcom actor writing about spirituality? Are people going to freak out? Are they going to care? Is it just going to be weird? I was kind of weaving in a lot of Baha'i concepts in there, a lot of ideas from like Michael Carlberg and other Baha'i thinkers and writers, and obviously, major Baha'i ideas around personal and social transformation. And it was received really well, and people seemed to be hungry for it and for more. And one of the kind of immediate ideas that came out of it is like, and what a lot of people asked is like, well, this is great. These are a lot of great ideas. How do we put them into practice? Like, what do I do now? Here's a bunch of fodder. What are some practical steps I can take? And both me and my co-author and frequent business partner, Shabnam Mugharabi, we had both been founders and originators of Soul Pancake, the media company back in the day. We were excited to dig into a workbook. We were big fans of a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. That's kind of a seminal book. It was written 70s or 80s. I don't even remember when, it's kind of the original, like, this workbook is going to take you on a journey. By the time you start it to the time you finish it, you will have a very different relationship to yourself as an artist. That's what The Artist's Way is about. It has free writing and exercises to do outside of the book. And it's made a profound difference in thousands and thousands of people's lives. And I loved it so much when I was a young actor in New York City. So we kind of modeled the Soul Boom workbook in a similar way, that we're going to start at the beginning of a journey. Very simple stuff like, how do you define the soul? How do you define religion? What's your relationship to faith? And we'll go a little deeper, prayer and meditation. What is sacred to you? What's your relationship to nature? And it goes deeper and deeper and more. So hopefully, whether as an individual or as a community, people go through it and find a certain measure of transformation, kind of having been in a different place at the end of the book than they were at the beginning.
Awesome. Do you have to be religious? Who's the book for?
Well, this was a tricky undertaking, and that's a great question, because we wanted to make the book for everyone. We really wanted it to be, if you were a born-again Christian, that you could enjoy the process. If you were questioning spirituality, you would dig into the questions. If you were spiritual but not religious, you would love it. Perhaps even, maybe not atheistic, but agnostic, but just vaguely spiritually curious. A lot of the exercises are kind of artistic in nature. It's drawing, and it's creative writing, and it's doodling, and it's, doing, mazes and filling in the blanks, and like throwing yourself a dance party. And so we also want folks that are interested in flexing some artistic, creative muscles as well to benefit from the book.
I love that it's not just theoretical, and even the practical exercises are not just kind of like, reflect on this. It's also like artistic, as you mentioned. Can you just explain the theoretical intertwined with the artistic?
Sure. So I'm just opening to a random page, and here's one called In Service We Trust. We talk about how service has great psychological benefit, in the field of positive psychology. And also we're told by Abdul Baha about how service can uplift us. And this is making a chart through your week of the service that you did and how it made you feel. So in writing about that. So it's just a handy tool to kind of put service into practice, for instance, and to notate your experience and to kind of like glean that it may have some benefit in your life for people who haven't really thought that way before. Now, there may be people that are, more advanced and make service a regular part of their daily life, as many Baha'is do. And that might be a bit remedial, but we're trying to bring everyone forward a little bit. Here's a mindfulness doodle. This is a fun exercise where one form of experiencing mindfulness, a form of contemplation or meditation, is by just drawing what comes to you and just allowing your subconscious to speak. So we have a mindfulness doodle there. You notate your meditation throughout the week.
Do you have to have read the Soul Boom book? Does the Soul Boom workbook stand alone?
It helps to have read the book, but you certainly don't have to have read the original Soul Boom book because these exercises are standalone. There's another one here I just came across as one of my very favorite ones. Cool. And this was inspired by Gulriz Lucina, a dear friend of ours in New Zealand. And it's a sacred photo swap. You create a text chain with people and something that's sacred to you. You take a picture and share with a friend. We have another kind of exercise that's similar to that in here called a beauty emergency, where anytime you see beauty in an unexpected place, a flower growing up from the cracks of the pavement or something like that, you take a picture of that's beautiful and share it with your beauty emergency text thread. So it's a way to kind of bring some spiritual ways of seeing the world kind of into daily practice.
Very cool. So what do you hope people take away from the book?
I think our goal was to open people's eyes to the possibility of what spirituality has to offer as a tool to enrich our lives. For a lot of people, spirituality lives in a very segregated space. It's church on Sunday, or saying grace before dinner, or it's a special kind of social gathering or a holy day or something like that. And so we've tried to incorporate nature and beauty and even technology and creativity and art, so that by the end of the book, you're like, oh, wow, spirituality actually has resonance on a number of different levels that I didn't think possible before. Now, as Baha'is, we kind of know this. We're inculcated into this way of being that hopefully has spiritual resonance in service, in the creation of art, in connection with people, connection with nature, prayer and meditation. But a lot of people don't have access to that. And the last thing I'll say too is the final chapter or chapters were the really difficult ones, because they're about this, how to change the world. Mm-hmm. So exercises that have to do with social transformation. So we'd also like to show people a distinctly Baha'i perspective, that part of a spiritual journey is, as Baha'u'llah says, to help usher forward an ever-advancing civilization, that social transformation, taking spiritual tools and putting them in place in the community, in your cul-de-sac, in your church basement, at your school, at your workplace, is such a vital part of the spiritual reality. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't think of spirituality as connected to kind of community building and social change.
That's awesome, Rainn. Yeah, I love this concept of action.
Yeah. One of our goals with the Soul Boom workbook was to make it accessible to Baha'i groups that are already bringing together youth. They're bringing together, the Institute process, Ruhi books, community gatherings with elevated conversations, that this can be an addendum to that. This isn't to replace any book or anything like that, but some of the exercises you can just pull out and do with your junior youth group, or do with a youth group, or do with your Ruhi book group, because we're told to weave creativity into all of these processes. Sometimes that gets put aside a little bit to just kind of like plow through the assignments, but this can be a nice addition to the Institute process and the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program, we hope, and to just bring a little, sprinkling of seasoning of creativity to the mix.
That's awesome. Yeah, I personally have seen in my travels a lot of people doing book clubs with the Soul Boom book, and I think this is such a great addition. I'm going to be sending emails out and messages to friends about the book, because I think they could really use it in their circles. I think it's such a great activity, and well done to you and Shabnam on this workbook. It's very exciting. Can you tell me a little bit, Rainn, about the podcast? How's the Soul Boom podcast been going?
The Soul Boom podcast has been going great. It's a tricky tone that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep it light, fun, accessible, and occasionally profound as well. I have a lot of stand-up comedians on the podcast, ones that are willing to talk about mental health and spirituality. And, speaking about mental health is a great way into a conversation with a lot of people who want to talk about spirituality, because they don't necessarily want to talk about God or the soul or faith or whatever, but they can talk about, hey, I struggled and I found some spiritual tools along the way that helped me on my path. And stand-ups are often willing to have those conversations. But I have theologians too. We just had a hospice nurse on talking about the transition from life to death. I've had several Baha'is, two of them named Payam, Payam Zamani and Payam Akavan, talking about their Baha'i story and journey. And we had a wonderful conversation with Mark Ruffalo where he talked about growing up Baha'i and how his dad was a Baha'i, and he went to tons of Baha'i meetings in Kenosha, Wisconsin when he was growing up. And he had nothing but good things to say about the faith. So I'm seeking to provide a way of looking at elevated conversations, uplifting spiritual conversations, and ideas about how to have them for the friends, but for the greater world as well.
That's awesome, Rainn. Are there any through lines, Rainn, that you think you've seen in all these interviews where there's a common theme or a common thread?
I think it's important to note that people are very open to spirituality in new ways today, in ways that they weren't 8 or 10 or 12 years ago. It's a very, very different landscape. It could be that 10 or 12 years ago, if you brought up spiritual ideas or faith to someone, they would be like, oh, that sounds great. That's great. Good luck to you. Okay. But now people are hungry. People are searching. There is so much more chaos and division in the world. And we see the systems around us unraveling in really grotesque, hurtful ways. And people are searching. They're searching. They're trying to figure out. They're trying to figure this out. In fact, in the United States, among young men, there's been a big swing with young men going back into Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, Roman Catholicism. They're looking for meaning, purpose, and they're looking for some structure and kind of a moral compass. And a lot of them, I think, for a very good reason, are finding it in the Catholic Church and in the Orthodox Church. And hopefully, too, we can make the Baha'i faith part of that conversation as a possible path for young people to take for finding a rudder for themselves, seeing hope for the future. That's a big deal too. There's this thing in the mental health epidemic with young people called the hope deficit. This just broke my heart to hear about it. That I think it was 40% of young people do not believe that the world has a possibility of getting better during their lifetime. And we have to be the bringers of hope and be having those hopeful conversations. And knowing our spiritual reality and knowing that there is a potential spiritual path to walk, this can be a balm for people that feel lost.
Beautiful. I think one of the great things about the Soul Boom podcast is that you're, encouraging conversation and nuance. Like, after me being in the US for the last 3 years, I've seen that things are becoming more and more polarized. And a lot of it is just because people are not talking to each other. Is there anything you could touch on that, just about the importance of conversation?
Yeah, in the United States right now, things are incredibly divided. As the great Arthur Brooks, the author, says, people just need to learn how to disagree better. Of course, we know that there's a spiritual idea behind that, which is consultation. And consultation allows for nuance. It allows for ideas to be shared in a safe way where you're not attacked for presenting them, and where everyone is keeping an open mind and helping to discern the truth for themselves. So I think podcasts are a great way for Baha'is to, have these elevated conversations with their communities and with the outside world, whether it's your business community or whether it's geographic or whether it's for your generation or, your tribe or what have you. It allows for longer, more nuanced, complex conversations, because we turn on the TV and we know outrage sells, people yelling at each other, "You're wrong." And, you click on news items of people hating on each other and disagreeing. It makes clicks and it sells, Toyotas and tennis shoes, because there's more, banner ads the more you click through. So, the media plays a role in this as well, and social media does as well. We live in these little bubbles and only listen to a certain set of ideas. So it's just important to have diversity. I try and have people of all different religious faiths on there. Had many Hindus and Jews and Muslims and Sikhs on the show to give different perspectives. I think that. So I hope that Soul Boom is providing that, and I think on a greater level that longer podcast conversations just allow for just a more human, heart-based interactivity. As I've entered this space, both with Soul Pancake on YouTube, and let's not forget that part of Soul Boom is kind of creating a vital, relevant, nuanced, loving, and supportive social media world as well. So we've grown our Instagram to 400,000 followers, and we have TikTok of several 100,000 followers, and our YouTube several 100,000 subscribers. That we're trying to create a community that's uplifting, that's spiritually positive, that's inclusive, and we've grown. It's been much more difficult, but we've been working on Substack, and the company that I'm working with is called Companion Arts, and it's a Baha'i inspired podcast platform and media company that's trying to bring other podcasts of a similar nature together to create a wide ranging network of kind of spiritually elevated, uplifting, hope-filled conversations. And, my hope for the Baha'is is that they see the possibility of having a Baha'i Substack, Baha'i TikTok, to be in conversation to meet people where they are. And that podcasting is something that you can do. You don't have to have millions of followers to start a podcast. You can have a small podcast with a couple hundred listeners or a couple thousand listeners. You can do that on a YouTube channel and on TikTok and on Substack. Substack is a great way where artists, writers, spiritual thinkers are meeting up with each other. And frankly, I don't see a lot of Baha'i engagement in a lot of these platforms, but I think that they can be an asset toward having spiritually elevated conversations with our communities. And it doesn't replace, again, the community work at the local level. It's just an addition to that. So it's been really fun and fascinating to learn about all of these different ways to connect with people.
That's awesome, Rainn. Oh, I'm glad you said that. I think we need to stop shying away from it.
For instance, there is a wonderful Baha'i named Alex Gottdank who wrote a book called Christ's New Name. And he's an authority on biblical prophecy from a Baha'i perspective. He's a Baha'i in California. And he started a TikTok channel called @Christ's New Name. And it's on YouTube as well now. And he's engaging with Christians about, hey, here's how one could interpret this biblical prophecy to include Baha'u'llah as a return of Christ. And he's getting some really nice play and really nice action. People are really engaging with Christ's New Name and Alex's work. It was just an individual initiative that he does on the side. He's still very active in his community with Ruhi and youth classes and on his assembly. And he's finding other ways to engage with a larger community.
That's awesome.
So, Naysan, let me throw it back to you. I know you're involved in a lot of really exciting initiatives, as well as a Baha'i blog. You've got a new YouTube channel, Baha'i Inspired.
Yeah.
You're working with the Australian company Half Light Media. You've been traveling the world, shooting a lot of stuff. What do you got? What is this hip hop sessions, and what else are you working on?
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Rainn. Yeah, I think I'm very passionate about serving the faith through the arts and media and really creating Baha'i inspired content. It's something that I feel like I've really made my life's focus. And as well as Baha'i blog, we decided to start another YouTube channel called Baha'i Inspired. So this is just a YouTube channel. Baha'i blog is a YouTube channel, has articles, has, audio and everything. But Baha'i Inspired is purely a YouTube channel. We're on other social media sites as well. But I wanted to create another platform as well. And because right now I'm in the US, I work closely with institutions in the US, like consulting with them. And, we have on Baha'i blog studio sessions, which is the Baha'i writings put to music around the world. We've done over 500 of them around the world in over 60.
Amazing.
Yeah, over 60 languages, 60 different locations.
It's such a beautiful asset for the international Baha'i community. And I know youth take those songs and learn them and bring them to their community events and gatherings and junior youth classes.
The chords and the quote is in the description of every video. And that's something I'm very passionate about. And, I'm also a huge fan of hip hop. And 25% of the music listened to on Spotify globally is rap and hip hop. And I'm a huge fan of hip hop. And I always wanted to do something like hip hop sessions on Baha'i blog. But since I had started Baha'i Inspired, the YouTube channel, I thought, actually, let me try it on this. So we've filmed 55 Baha'i Inspired hip hop sessions now, live hip hop in a studio with our dear friend Karim Rushdie in Stratford, Canada, in his studio. The kind of music that Baha'is are putting out there has been awesome. And we try and put out the song, and then I also create a little story behind the song of what the song is about, what inspired the song. So, we filmed 55 of those so far. We're publishing them pretty much every week. And I love them. And it's amazing to see how people come together without much practice. We bring everybody into the studio. Many of them have never met, and we all jam and get the song going. So it's been very, very exciting. So I'm very excited about hip hop sessions. Please, to the listeners, check it out. There's also a series that I absolutely love with our dear friend Arya, who's based in the States right now. So it's called Baha'i Basics with Arya. And we really wanted to create an introductory series to the Baha'i faith. It's aimed at young Baha'is, like actually, or young viewers. It's aimed really at the 10-year-old demographic, but I've had so many people of all walks of life come to me saying how much they love it, how much it's helped them learn about the Baha'i faith. It's everything from what is the Baha'i faith to who was Baha'u'llah to why Baha'is don't believe in backbiting. So all different Baha'i basics. It's called Baha'i Basics with Arya. So those are the two main series I have right now, and I'm working on a whole bunch of other series as well, and just excited to be able to create Baha'i inspired content. So it keeps me going.
That's great. Well, thank you for your service, and always have loved working with you, collaborating with you. The Baha'i Blogcast was one of the highlights of my life, and loved having all those interviews. And hopefully people are still able to access them.
They still are, and everywhere I travel, it's still one of the number one things people talk to me about. So it's had a profound impact, and I love it so much. And great. Keep up the amazing work, Rainn. You're always an inspiration, and I feel like I have a brother in service, and I'm just excited about all the work you're doing, and hope we can continue to keep collaborating, and let us know if there's anything else that we can do. And really sending you a big hug.
Thank you. Big online hug back to you. There's always a guest room waiting for you here in Camarillo, California, Naysan.
Appreciate that.
Much love to you. Thanks.
Yeah.